Hello, lovely people. Welcome to today's episode of Reality TV News. Reminding you, we post videos daily, so if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, smash that subscribe button so that you don't miss any important update.
Okay, so in this video, we'll be talking about the latest with Teresa Giudice from the Real Housewives of New Jersey, specifically her financial situation.
Yeah, it's pretty significant. We're looking at these substantial tax liens she and her husband, Luis Ruelas, are facing.
Right. The figure that's out there is what, over $3 million? That seems huge.
It is. The total comes to $3,037,255.20. It's broken down a bit. Yeah. Teresa has her own individual lien for about $303,889.
Okay.
And then Luis, he actually has two. One for around $163,000. And, well, the really big one is for over $2.5 million.
Wow. So
Yeah.
that's serious debt, legally recognized debt.
Exactly. It's not just owing money. It's a legal claim by the government on their assets.
And Teresa's response has been interesting. She keeps saying she's taking accountability. Part of that, she says, involved making changes, right?
Uh-huh. She mentioned firing some people from her team.
Yeah, and bringing in, I think she called them top-notch people and top-notch accounting firms. What does that kind of move, doing that publicly illuminate for us?
Well, it's partly managing perception, isn't it? Saying, I'm fixing this. But it also clarifies the pressures. She's framed the entertainment business as potentially shady, and that, her goal is always to cross every T, dot every I, but sometimes you end up trusting the wrong people.
And it's not just the business side, is it? This seems to be spilling over into her personal life, particularly with her ex-husband, Joe Giudice.
Definitely. She's been quite vocal about wanting him back in the U.S. to help with their daughters. They have 4 girls together.
Gabriella, Milania, and Audriana. Yeah.
And Teresa's frustration is palpable. She said Joe, who's in the Bahamas now, provides no child support, no nothing.
So she feels like everything's on me, was her quote, I think.
That's it. And it really depicts the burden, right? Both emotionally and just practically. She did say Luis, her current husband, has been great. But she also made the point that ultimately the girls are not his responsibility. So it really underscores her feeling of being the sole provider in that sense.
Which must add another layer of stress onto the whole tax situation. It makes that public confrontation she had maybe more understandable.
You mean the one on WGN News with Larry Potash?
Exactly. Where he challenged her about her taxes live on air. Her reaction was really something.
It was. She said, I'm trying to work. I'm trying to work to pay my taxes. So what is your problem?
Yeah, like, you're attacking me. She even brought up, shouldn't that be not allowed? A man attacking a woman?
Yeah. And then, I'm working to support my 4 children, and that's what I was trying to do, and here you are attacking me.
It was raw.
Absolutely.
And trying to fix past financial issues while everyone is watching and, judging.
It brings to life that tightrope they walk. The public wants transparency, demands it even, but being transparent can open you up to more criticism.
It's quite the paradox.
Next, we are going to talk about Ariana Biermann's candid revelations about her financial anxieties and legal journey, as featured on Joe Giudice's podcast, Casual Chaos.
Okay.
So yeah, Ariana Biermann was on Joe Giudice's podcast, Casual Chaos, recently, and she really opened up quite a bit, giving us a look beyond, the usual headlines. She did tease a screaming match on Gen NYC, saying she and Gia might have been going in on someone together who I do feel like did deserve it a little bit.
Right.
But where it gets really interesting, I think, is when she talked about her financial situation, especially with her parents, Kim Zolciak and Kroy Biermann, given all their, public money issues.
Ariana seemed very keen to address what she specifically called a misconception. She wanted to make it clear that she and her sister Brielle weren't, the reason for her parents' problems.
Right. She actually said she was shopping at Shine, which, that definitely challenges the sort of glamorous image.
And it wasn't just Shine. She talked about the Chanel bags, too.
Oh, yeah, the best.
She explained her mom, Kim, bought them for her as gifts, but, apparently with Ariana's own money, without her really knowing it at the time.
Yeah, she said, and this is quite a line, so I guess I did buy one, I just was unaware of it. Even with that, which sounds like, a betrayal or at least a major mix-up, she insisted she wasn't angry or holding resentment. She even had this sort of philosophy about it, saying money shouldn't ruin relationships because you can always make more money.
That's quite a perspective to take.
It is. But she did admit feeling angry sometimes, thinking, I could never imagine my kid being in the situation I was in. That part felt very real.
Her saying she wanted to avoid blowback, it suggests she really wants to protect those relationships, even when she must be feeling pretty let down.
Yeah, definitely. And then, switching gears a bit, her DUI sentencing. She wanted to clear up what she called a major misconception.
Okay.
She was super insistent, saying, quote, "I didn't do it, and I was never going to take any deal or do anything. I denied so many of them because I was like, no, I didn't do this."
So setting the record straight.
Exactly. She said, "Everybody thinks I'm on probation for the next 2 years and that I have a DUI. I do not have one. It was dismissed completely," which is, pretty different from maybe the initial headlines.
Absolutely.
And looking ahead, she's even planning to, play mediator. She wants to reconcile her mom, Kim, and Condi Burrows with Riley Burrows.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, saying they're going to put them in a room and they're going to figure it out. And for herself, her focus is all on money smarts now, building a large rainy day fund. And get this, she plans for her future kids to have a trust fund, adding they won't be spending $10,000 on rent in New York City. That's a very specific plan.
It really is.
Okay, so moving from personal finances and legal stuff. Next update we have about Imrul Hassan from Summer House, who revealed what was cut from the show and why he actually joined. So Imrul Hassan, he's not coming back to Summer House, and he shared some really candid thoughts about his time there, especially about what got edited out. Some fans felt he was a bit isolated or maybe got an unfair edit.
Well, what's really fascinating is his reason for joining the show in the first place, which apparently got totally sidelined in the edit.
What was that?
He revealed that a huge part of his story, his work building an English school for kids in Bangladesh, which he called his life's mission, was just completely cut out of a dinner scene.
Wow, really?
Yeah. He'd hoped the show would be a platform for that, so he said the cut felt so hurtful.
Oh, I bet. He didn't really hold back talking about it either, did he? He called the cuts fricked up.
No, he didn't. He said he didn't give a cess at this point about holding back. And he also mentioned they sloppily cut him out of a whole weekend before that scene anyway.
Yikes. It really makes you question the whole editing process, what stories get told and why.
His disappointment really illustrates that challenge for people who go on these shows with, a bigger purpose beyond just drama.
Yeah. And another thing he said got cut was an apology he made for bringing people back to the house too often.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he said he'd realize I wasn't being as thoughtful or keeping their feelings in mind. So I wanted to hear that out, and I apologized.
Yeah.
He even apparently joked with Carl Radke about learning not to do that from him.
See, that highlights exactly how selective editing can totally change how you perceive someone. Removing moments like that, moments of self-reflection or apology,
Right.
it leaves the audience with a skewed picture. Instead, like he said, the focus shifted to maybe West and Ciara sitting together, something that fit the producer's storyline better, perhaps. It's a real lesson in how reality TV constructs its reality.
Definitely a lesson. Okay, so from editing decisions to personal struggles. Next update we have about Jax Taylor, who spoke about past panic attacks and his future plans on his own podcast.
Ah, Jax, always something going on there.
Right. So over on his podcast, In the Mind of Jax Taylor, he's been pretty open lately, talking mental health, panic attacks, and his views on marriage and kids now.
Yeah, he clarified that he's on medication right now for my bipolar disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually sort of challenged people who don't use medication or support.
How so?
He said, "Who the fuck does that? You're on nothing. That's not normal." Which is, a very direct, very personal take on managing mental health, especially under that spotlight.
Yeah, that's direct. And he described a couple of panic attacks really vividly. One on a boat where he said he just couldn't breathe and I couldn't move.
Gosh, that sounds terrifying.
And another at a restaurant where he had to call a friend. And the friend he called was Tom Schwartz. And according to Jax, Schwartz's advice was, "Here's a Xanax. Take half this Xanax and a beer. You'll be fine."
Oh, wow. Well, that certainly illustrates the scary reality of panic attacks, but also the kind of, let's say, questionable advice people might get, right?
And then he also mentioned trying to get his publicist, Lori Krebs, to smoke weed to relax.
Yeah.
Telling her, just try it. It'll relax you a little bit.
Hmm.
And then looking forward, Jax was very clear. He said, "I'm definitely never going to get married again. That's for sure never going to happen. I'm also not going to have any more kids."
That's pretty definitive. It clarifies his current thinking, doesn't it? After the split from Brittany Cartwright, it really speaks to how much those past experiences, especially playing out so publicly, have shaped his view of the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he also tried to clear up that comment he made to Brittany on the Valley about a woman not needing a big house.
Yeah.
That got a lot of backlash.
Right, I remember that.
He explained, "I didn't mean to say a woman. I meant any person." His point, he said, was the house was just too big for Brittany and Cruz alone.
Okay.
He suggested she could sell the house, get the money out of that equity, and buy something a little bit smaller that's manageable. He insisted it wasn't meant to be misogynistic and that they only bought it because they thought we were going to fill it with kids. Okay, our final deep dive brings us to Stassi Schroeder's candid confessions from her Disrespectfully podcast appearance.
Ah, Stassi. This should be interesting. She was on Katie Maloney and Dana Cathan's podcast, right?
Exactly. Disrespectfully.
Yeah.
And she shared some truly wild, kind of behind-the-scenes stories from the Vanderpump Rules days. Stuff that really pulls back the curtain.
Okay, like what?
Well, she talked about producers influencing things pretty heavily.
Yeah.
Like this one time she was apparently too high from some weed tea to do a press day. She took it like she was told, but the last dose, because it wasn't shaken, was basically like all the THC at once.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she said she felt like a dead person, ended up throwing up in a dumpster, and was just fully incapable of doing interviews. Producers apparently just let her lay there and eat chips.
Wow. That illustrates quite a bit about the pressures, but also just a kind of relatable, if extreme, story of something going wrong.
Totally. And she also talked really openly about getting facial fillers back in the day. Cheeks, jaw, chin. She admitted the chin filler made her look like a fucking clown.
Oof. Been there, metaphorically speaking.
Right. She said she stopped because she saw TikToks about filler migrating and got too scared. And get this, she revealed it was Sheena Shea who got her into Botox and filler when they were like 24, 25.
Really? Sheena?
Yeah. She described them going for margaritas afterwards with all the bumps all over our face. It definitely sets the scene for that time, doesn't it?
It really does. It brings to life those pressures, especially on young women on TV, to look a certain way, and also how ideas about cosmetic procedures evolve, you know?
Yeah.
Her being so candid about looking like a clown is pretty refreshing, actually.
Yeah. But it also raises bigger questions about expectations, right? Stassi and Katie recalled being, in their words, forced to be in bikinis a lot. They talked about having fully nude spray tans right in front of producers and editors who then had to, like, blur out our nipples and butt cracks. Even getting waxed with cameras just right there.
Gosh. That's a really stark depiction of just how few boundaries there were, the invasiveness of it all. It really highlights the objectification they must have felt.
Absolutely. And Dana Cathan, who was on season 8, chimed in too. She said producers pushed her to go topless in bed scenes.
Seriously?
Yeah, she refused, even though she apparently sleeps nude anyway. Stassi praised her for having those boundaries, admitting she herself was easily influenced back then, especially when drinking all day and all night for the show.
That clarifies so much about the dynamic, doesn't it, between the cast and production, those subtle and maybe not so subtle pressures, and how being constantly filmed, often drinking, makes you vulnerable. Good on Dana for holding her ground.
For sure. And one last thing, that old accusation about Jax Taylor stealing.
Oy.
Stassi claimed he was always doing that, meaning stealing, even before he got caught with the sunglasses in Hawaii back in season 4.
Oh.
She said he was doing that since before Vanderpump Rules.
Wow. Well, that eliminates a potentially consistent pattern, doesn't it? Something extending beyond just what we saw on camera. It gives a bit more depth, maybe a darker shade to that long-running storyline about him. Basically confirms what a lot of people probably suspected.
Wow. Okay.